Hey, Tony.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Nice to finally talk to you, man.
Yeah, getting all my stuff set up.
Yeah, you good?
What?
Just let me know when you're ready.
No, I'm good. The best part is we are talking. You can hear me, I can hear you. So
Perfect.
that's like 80% of it.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Once you get that, you got everything going.
Dude,
Absolutely.
we get so many where like I get on and everything's set. I'm checking it. As soon as the host shows up, kicks me off, cuts my headphones. Like, I don't. I mean, we
I had
always
it.
get there, but
I had it for a while too, because I do this all by myself. So I wasn't a tech guy before this, so it was hard. But then I finally
forced.
got it.
You're
You know,
forced to become a tech guy.
absolutely. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. It's early though, so we'll see. But where
Absolutely.
you call, where are you
I'm actually
calling
on
from?
vacation. I live
Oh,
in
really?
Chicago. Yeah, I
Okay.
live in Chicago, but I'm
Where
in. Go
where
ahead,
about
sorry.
in Chicago?
I'm actually right outside. I grew up in Chicago, but I'm in now. It's right
Okay.
outside of there.
Ah, right outside. That's like freaking hour and a half, man.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know where it is, so I just say outside Chicago. Everybody knows Chicago.
Yeah, right, right. And I'm just north of Toledo, but I tell people half
Okay.
hour south of Detroit because you know Detroit, maybe not Toledo. I did 8 years in Rogers Park.
Yeah, that's my route for my job. Yeah.
Yeah, about a frisbee's toss from Evanston. So,
Yeah. Right there. Yeah, I'm up and down Tui and Broadway over there.
oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow, small world.
Did you ever go to North Shore Bakery?
No, I've heard of it though.
Oh my gosh. So whenever the kids go back or somebody visits, North Shore Bakery, it's a Jewish bakery on Tui, just a
Yeah.
bit, just a bit east of the highway, and you get these eclairs that are like a Chipotle burrito. So,
Wow.
and they're
I'm
good.
trying to think. I think I know where that is.
It's great stuff.
Trying to think of it. So obviously, we just started talking. I just started the recording.
Yeah.
We'll just start with just basic stuff, and then and go from there. Kind of, I'll introduce you. So I'm just going to start it right now, and then I'll edit it. Obviously, from this point. Thank you guys. Welcome back to the Garage Mind tonight. I have Eric Robinson. I'm super excited to hear your story, man. Nice to finally talk to you. You got an interesting tale, man. You got an interesting life. I love to hear everything from start to finish. Kind of, introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Well, it's not finished yet. We're still going there, Tony. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
I don't know. We'll see what interesting stuff's ahead. But just retired a few months ago from 24 years in the FBI. I worked drugs, gangs, public corruption, organized crime, crimes against children, financial crimes, national security, and then had human intelligence mixed in there. I spent 15 years as a SWAT operator during that time, close to 10 years or so as a tactical instructor and firearms instructor. Moved from Chicago to Toledo while I was in the FBI. Prior to that, I spent 12 years in Christian ministry. I left the pulpit of the Baptist church. My last sermon in my church in Western New York was Easter Sunday, 2002.
Wow.
The next Sunday, I was in Quantico, Virginia for the FBI Academy. The Sunday after that, I was preaching in the FBI Academy because they were down a chaplain and needed somebody to fill in.
Nice. Kind of filled that role. That's kind of where I want to start because I always do a little background on people. So you started. So what is? So I guess my question to you: what is the switch, or why was the switch from pastor to FBI?
Short answer is I needed a job with less stress. The longer
Wow.
answer is plenty of pastors know how to deal with the difficulties of ministry. I didn't. I internalized my people's issues. They weren't tremendous. It wasn't like I had some special ministry to
Yeah.
prisons or drug abusers. It was just normal everyday stuff. I internalized it. I couldn't separate myself from it. That resulted in me having stress related headaches every single day for 2 years. I enjoyed the ministry. I was good at what I did. I was successful. and my body was telling me, "Hey, man, we can't do this." So I had to make a decision. Am I going to let my body say, "Well, you're not going to listen to headaches, so let me give you a stroke," or who knows what?
Yeah.
So I just had to find something else to do, and the FBI sounded cool. So I applied. I was well underqualified. They took a chance on me and got to do some remarkable things along the way.
Now, has that been? I think you were qualified too. I did some research, man. You've done a lot, and obviously too. The service looks a little different. Obviously, you were helping people as a pastor as well, and then obviously you were helping the world be a better place too, and some things like that with the FBI. So I kind of I see the correlation there. It's just it's every kid's dream when they're a little kid to be an FBI agent. That's was that always kind of your thing, or did you just fall into that?
No, I've had buddies who will tell me their whole life path of how they orchestrated everything from what they studied in college, jobs they took, so they could fulfill their dream of being the FBI. I was fine being a pastor. Like, this seemed like a good place to be, and I was equipped for it. And then when I thought, man, I got to do something else, I applied for two jobs. One I was overqualified for, and they turned me down. The FBI, I don't even remember, because this is over 25 years ago,
Yeah.
why I thought, let me try that, other than it was cool. My background was in studying Islam and working with Muslims. Application was in process when 9/11 hits. Presumably the FBI goes, we got an Al Qaeda problem. This
Yeah.
guy might be able to help us. So, my wife is way out of my league. If you don't take swings at the pretty girls, you're not going to get on any dates. So I thought I'd take a swing with the pretty
S-
FBI.
Same. Same for me. Yeah. My wife is I got lucky there. But that's what I like too. I like your attitude too. This is why I like talking to people. You're obviously very passionate in the things you do too, because the fields you were in, both of them, would not you wouldn't if you weren't that person. And also I like your attitude, what you just said right there too, like your perspective. Take, do what you want to do. Take your swing, as you said. And I love that. And I've always tried to live that way as well. If you don't try it, you never know. And like I said earlier, it's funny how you say I've talked to people who did FBI too. They set up the career correct. They went to college for it.
Yep.
Got the things that they're looking for in interviews, and I think it's cool. You kind of did it your own way. You know, and,
Yeah. Well, there's certain things that are in your control in that process, and some aren't. I took that first test. It's like an SAT test. And I
oh,
thought, I tried. There's no way I passed that. They called me back, said you did well enough, whatever it is. And then from there, now it's oral exam. Okay, well, I can speak. That's good. Written exam, I write fine. Fitness test, I've got that. I know I can pass that. Background, hey, man, I never leave the house, so I'm pretty clean.
you're good there.
Yeah. So once I got through that initial of, let's see about this guy, then I thought, okay, now I've got a handle on, like, implementing that career path.
Exactly. So once you start everything, there's obviously the basic training. What's that? Can you walk me through like kind of how you first start, your first days, how that goes?
Oh man, my first days, it's just wide eyed. And then, but meeting the people. So the agents in the FBI and the support staff are just among the best. Talented, professional, smart, creative. But then, you get there, and I go from thinking, oh man, I'm going to be with FBI agents, to these guys just look like me. Like,
Yeah.
and so it brings it from, like, I can't compete with them. And, I got a buddy there who was a commander for the Rangers, and
Oh, wow.
I look at him and I go, oh, okay, I'm in shape like him. Like, we can do this. I had a buddy who ended up being number 3 in the FBI before he retired. Great
Right.
guy. And the only thing that relieved my headaches when I was a pastor was running. So at this point, I'm running marathons because I just want more relief.
Yeah.
Uh, it's day 2. We barely got to know each other's names, and we have to take the fit test to see if you can pass it. And we line up. It's a 2-mile run at the time, And my buddy goes, I see this scrawny white kid, just take off at the gun. And I go, I'll see you again soon. Figuring I'm going to fade. And he's like, yeah, I saw you again soon when you lapped me the
Oh
next to
God.
last lap. So, but it's like you get in and just start absorbing. It's a lot of classes on legal training. I'm handling a gun for the first time in my life and trying to pick that up. Um, Defensive tactics where you're wrestling, physical fitness, but it's not like the military. It's testing you, but it's not a washout. The
Extreme.
bureau, yeah, the bureau spent money to get you there. They believe you could be somebody good, so they're going to push you, but it's not boot camp.
Yeah.
Nobody's screaming at you, so I wouldn't say it was my favorite experience, but it's 4 months away learning all that and preparing you to know how to handle investigations.
Now, listening to you, Eric, I hear that. I like how you're able to. I'm really liking you. You can adapt. I mean, you like you said, you're holding a gun for the first time. Doing some things you're not really used to. You could kind of, you're fit. You could kind of do that. That comes natural. But a lot of the stuff sounds like you were kind of just you adapted very well, and it was your drive that got you where you were at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is true because you have to be able to pick this up. There's some former cops in my class, some former military, folks who had been support staff in the FBI now becoming gun toters. And so they got a little leg up. But
Yeah,
along the way, I mean, in those 24 years at the FBI, yeah, I mean, I was a good piece of clay
to
to
move. Yeah.
use, but the Bureau offered so many opportunities to, here's a guy skipping rounds as we start firearms. Now I'm a firearms instructor helping agents who are good become more proficient. So that came because the Bureau offered me things, because I got training with SWAT. It also came because I took the time, as you mentioned, to, I need to learn how to be better at this on my own too.
Now, thinking along those lines too, what was like when because you said like a lot. Obviously, you think too. Like when I think, at least when I think FBI, I think what you just said: former military, a cop, stuff like that, detectives, and then so obviously, I don't know how that made you feel, but when did you realize like, man, I'm just as good as these guys. I'm hanging with these guys, like, because I would think that would be a little intimidating at first.
When you just get to know the people, it helps that on day two when I'm lapping my buddy Brian, that little show off here, but I'm a fairly smart guy, so we're taking legal training, and it's just understanding these basics. It wasn't so much learning how to be a cop; it's absorbing what the FBI is because it's so huge. There's so many different aspects to it. And to the day I retired, I'm learning. Like I didn't know we had that. I didn't know people did
You're
this
still learning.
all the time. I'm, I was when I became a senior agent. Obviously, younger people are coming to me asking for advice. I'm still going to them. Here's guys 3 years on, and I'm asking them, "Do you know somebody from your past division who does this?" Yeah. Here's a website I learned about. So there's
Oh,
always collaboration there.
nice.
So that mentality, to your question, like people are just supportive, and I could be the greatest, I could be the worst. As long as I have a good attitude, people are going to be pulling, I might be pulling somebody up. They're going to be pushing me forward too.
I like that too. I didn't know. Obviously, I would have thought, the world and the FBI would be a little more competitive between each other. But I like that it's like more building. That's basically what I'm getting from you. People are supportive of each other and want to build each other up. I really like that because you're only as good as the lowest guy. So you
Well,
want to get everybody.
it is competitive in that everybody is trying to be their best. So,
Yeah,
but and there's always entitlement and type A personalities. But overall, like, from the beginning, you could see that the conditions, the morality, just the environment there is, we're going to do things well, we're going to do it right, and that's been passed on from the guys before and the guys before them too. So it's great to jump into that and see, okay, I'm in a good, healthy organization.
they got my back kind of thought. Absolutely. So a question I have to ask too, because like I said, everybody here at FBI, they get excited. You know, it's the top of the food chain kind of thought. Um, so obviously we see Hollywood. That's what most of us only go off of what we see on TV shows and stuff like that. What exactly did they get right, and what exactly did they get wrong?
So right now, my wife and I'm rewatching. I'm introducing her to The Wire,
Okay,
which is different than. I mean, there's FBI there too, um, but there's so much on The Wire where I go, dude, this just brings it back. I remember doing this. Yep, this is how the only thing The Wire gets wrong is like if you know the show and you look
I've
back,
watched a
like
little. I've watched a
yeah,
little.
here's the gang guys swapping up phones, only using pay phones. Like they were dedicated. The only thing that they get wrong there is humans get sloppy. Like you can't keep that level of security up, especially running so much.
Slip, yeah.
We were on a doper in Chicago who was selling pretty heavy weight. His brother was his connect down at the border who was dealing in huge weight. And remember, we're up on his phone, and his brother is saying, "Why am I calling you at this number still? You know, why have you not?" And, and the guy's just like, he just wants to live life. He doesn't want to. He wants the advantage of all the money that comes
You
from
want to
selling
enjoy it.
dope, without the work. The little work it takes of like get a new phone every 2 weeks or whatever it might be. Do counter surveillance, and that's just unfortunately how it is. Also, it makes sense that the movies show only the highlights. There's a
Yeah,
long process that goes. If I tell you a story about a case of mine, I'm just, this took 18 months. I'm just giving you the high points, taking out how I'm yelling on the phone to T-Mobile because their subpoenas aren't coming through yet. So that's not so much fun to listen to.
the boring stuff, but there's
Yeah,
the stuff that has to be done.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's definitely exciting things like the stuff you see. You go, oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you'll run into that. It may not be today or next week, but there's many times where we get done with an operation, go, oh man, that's surprising.
Too, and to give you credit, Eric, too, the most people I talk to, I want to talk to people that obviously, have a story to be told, maybe charity or a job or a life they've lived. And I just love talking to people because I look up to people like you. I love talking to people that are very passionate and that people that, they're living for a cause. And that's why your story struck me. Just about what you talked about right there. It's not all Hollywood. Sometimes it's the long hours, the time away from your family, the stuff that just sucks. And if there weren't people like you, we would still have those drug dealers on the street. And some, don't know all your cases, but some killers and stuff like that. And you make, especially had lived in Chicago, almost all my life now, still in that area. It's dangerous and there's a lot of crime. And most of the time, people just turn the other eye to it or turn the other cheek to it. And without people like you, my family would be a lot more in danger, you know.
Yeah, and yet work in Chicago. I work gangs there too, and we would do like a 50-man roundup of
Yeah.
gang members, long term case, Title III wiretaps, and that corner, wasn't any better. It's the only thing I would think of to that, working dope and working gangs, and people would say, working drugs is just useless because it keeps going. And my only answer was there has to be some type of um, accounting for that. Otherwise, criminals just live with impunity. So
And
the cases put bad people away, but it also has a dampening effect where guys have to be careful. Like you can't just go out and sell a half kilo of coke to anybody. You got to slow the process down, check it out. Maybe it muffles some sales. So, there has to be a consequence, or else bad guys just do
I keep
whatever
going.
they want because they know nobody's looking.
And I feel like a place like Chicago too, that's kind of what I was talking about. Everybody just there's a lot of bad. Everybody just sees all the shootings and all the you can report on it daily on the stuff that goes out here. But like stuff like that, you're creating that problem for them. It's not the
Yeah.
wild, wild west. People like you create, man, should I sell this? Should I do it? It puts a little damper, as you said. That was a perfect word in the operation. And in that little bit right there, that's where it starts. It makes them hard to sell drugs, makes them hard to do crimes, and it keeps people like us safer. And it doesn't. But I feel like a lot of people just look at, oh, there was a shooting the other day, but what happened, that maybe that shooting was going to happen every day, and now it's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
I love that, and I appreciate you for that. Um, so now back to a little bit about to the mental of the game. Is that easy for you? Like maybe you went on a long stint on something and you had to come back to your family and kind of, does that stick with you? Or are you really good at, you know, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say here. Like there
Compartmentalizing.
you go,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
compartmentalizing. Sorry, I slipped up there. Is it easy for you to do that?
Well, so this is what's crazy is, I could go from a shooting, I could go from a dangerous operation, you know, being on surveillance or a car chase and the heart rate's up, and then I compare that to ministry. The thing with ministry is I couldn't compartmentalize that. In the FBI, for me, it was easy because I had a job to do and I was doing my job. So even when we'd encounter victims, terrible situations, things I didn't see in ministry, I knew that my job was to find justice. And so we get an indictment, we arrest these guys. And so that's my job. And even if I wanted to now care for that victim beyond, kind of be a pastor to them,
Sympathy.
it wasn't my role. And it was actually inappropriate. So whereas, you come to me and you're like, hey man, my child was killed. That's, I'm not giving you Bible verses and walking away. In law enforcement, I could go find that guy, arrest him, and now I have completed a task. Whereas in ministry is like you're still mourning, it's still tough, it's going to come up in a month, in a year. That's hard. This was a task to finish, and I knew, okay, we're successful. And even if you got like, here's 8 guys we want to indict, and prosecutor said, yeah, we're only going to do 6, that would piss me off. But okay, moving
It is
on.
what it is.
There's more guys to get, and the universe is probably going to get those 2 that we didn't get somehow.
I like how you said that. So yeah, that answered my question very well. Thank you. So you turned it into something that you just had to do. It was your job. It was the task that it was asked of you, and you keep the feelings and the sympathy out of it. I like that because I was wondering how somebody like you, because I'm sure it got intense sometime, and like my wife, for instance, like she works with a lot of schizophrenic and drug addict patients, and sometimes I
Yeah.
hear these stories, and I'm like, wow, like I can't handle it, but she just talks to me like it's normal, I get it now because she's the same way. It's your job. It's what was asked of you, and obviously someone like you is going to do your job to the best ability. So that's not part of the job, and that's not something you're going to take with you.
Yeah.
Now, I gotta ask about the juicy stuff, man. I gotta ask about the fun stuff. So, what are some memorable cases that you can discuss, or some things that kind of stuck with you, or you remember going through, or maybe were even fun for you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there are so many of them are fun. I was a new agent. I was tasked to Rockford office.
Okay.
No, not Rockford. Schaumburg. So I'm tasked to help out there because we had 2 senior guys doing a wiretap trying to take down this OG dope dealer in their area. They knew who he was and they're trying to work up to him. And they needed like one more body to help out in this task force. So it's two senior agents and then a number of cops working with them.
Okay.
And so I'm helping them out. I'm sitting wire shifts, and I'd been on wiretaps before, but this is the first crack wire we'd been on, and the volume of calls, it was as if this guy was selling to addicts, which he was. I mean,
Yeah.
just so call comes in, you've got to start, transcribing it. Call comes in, I'm starting to type pertinent call from, and then boom, next call. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it would be like that one after another. Well, we finally get the call coming where their main target is going to resupply this crack dealer. So the main target was a dude, probably about my age now, who had grown up. He had a good supply. Now he's bringing the coke. This is going to be the big deal. We're ready. We hit the guy in a parking lot, knock him down, 12 kilos of coke on him, and then now here's me as a young agent getting to watch these guys do their thing. They flip him. I mean, this guy was hardcore in the game for his whole life, and they flip him, and now he goes from our target to our best friend,
best asset.
and so now we're working him. We send him into his supplier with a camera. He's got a secreted camera. He goes in. This Mexican supplier shows him 45 kilograms of cocaine that he has in his apartment.
Jesus.
That's $1 million worth of dope. And so we obtain what's called a surreptitious search warrant. So if I execute a search warrant at your house, if you're there, I have to show you the search warrant. Here's a judge saying this is valid. Or if you're not there, we got to leave it with a receipt. Surreptitious search warrant says we can bust in your house and delay notifying you. So we're breaking into your house and stealing. Going. Yeah. So, again, young agent, I am driving the van where these guys are hidden in the back. The drug dealer's condominium was pretty high end. So you had to have a key card to get in, which we didn't have. So here I am idling the van, waiting for somebody to come out. And then I start busting it in down the out lane, hoping nobody, like blind, hoping nobody's coming up, trying to beat the door. We get in, park the car and where we can watch his vehicle, and we wait. He goes to his vehicle, he leaves, and then a team goes upstairs, busts in the door, and we steal $1 million worth of cocaine. And then we go back and we listen to the wiretap when he's calling our now informant saying, I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. I lost $1 million. What am I going to do? And so we ended up getting charges on all those guys, but great case working with them. While I was working with them too, we had one down day, and bank robbery call comes in. So I was the only guy in the office along with my supervisor. He goes, come on, let's go. So this is my first time going to a bank robbery scene, getting information from the cashiers, and they're telling the situation that guy comes in, he takes off, but right before that, local dispatch got a call that there was a bomb in a school. And so it was like Die Hard 3, I think it was, where like they say there's bombs in schools. Familiar. So all the cops go there so he can, rob somewhere else. Don't want to give away the plot to Die Hard 3. So he did this. However, it was like July. So the cops, like a couple of squad cars go there instead of everybody. Guy gets picked up pretty immediately then. So by the time we get there, he is already in police custody. So we take him and we're transporting him downtown Chicago. And he's acting really weird and just like mumbling and talking. And I get a phone call, and it's from our radio room. Our secretary's pushing a call to me, and it's the kid's family attorney. And he goes, hey, just so you know, he has auditory hallucinations. He's hearing things, which makes sense now because he's just like, what, say that again. And it's crazy because I don't know why auditory hallucinations are always negative. Why it can't be, there's a voice in your head saying, hey, Tony, I like your shirt. That's really nice. It's always something nasty.
It's bad.
So,
it's bad stuff.
Yeah. So he thinks we're saying nasty stuff to him all the time. He's picking fights with us. We take him in, get him printed, and we take him in, and he's like continually showing these signs of having auditory hallucinations. We inform the guards, like, hey, this is a situation with him. And so they bring out two guards who probably totaled 13 feet tall and 600 pounds.
Jesus.
Big guys. And we're watching while he's handcuffed, and he starts to attack one of the guards, and they just dump him like a sack of potatoes. Next day is his initial appearance. We have him in a side room where pre-trial, is going to interview him. It's a neutral party working on behalf of the court just to find out, like, what's your education, what's your income, what's your background, and they go through that, and it's a female. And so I want to give them privacy, but also protect her. And he's
Exactly.
handcuffed, and he's just going off on her, very, very abrasively sexually, just saying stuff to her. And so she walks out, and he's continuing on yelling in there. His attorney shows up, which is from the family, and his demeanor completely changes. Where, like, now he's happy, he's shaking hands, he's doing great. I go to my boss as we're about to walk in, and typically you take handcuffs off of someone when they go into court. And I
Yeah.
go, we're not taking his handcuffs off, are we? And he goes, no, man, we're leaving them on. So I lead him in. While we're there, prosecutor says, I'm this guy on behalf of the government. The defense attorney says, I'm this guy on behalf of the defendant. And the defendant looks over at him. He goes, what did you say? And he takes his head and he headbutts this 5 foot tall, 70-year-old attorney right on the bridge of the nose.
Oh,
I pick him up. I dump the guy down. We wrestle. I had to get a tetanus shot that day. But before he entered, I talked to my boss and I go, I'll bet you $20 he's going to be held in contempt of court today. We get in there. Marshals come in, solve the situation. And before he leaves, the judge says, I'm holding you in contempt of court. And I went, yay. So the next day there was a bottle of Irish whiskey on my desk to even up the debt there.
There you go. I have to ask, just because I'm a huge bourbon guy. What's your favorite whiskey? Just randoms.
I am a rye fellow, so I like bourbon, but I like that little peppery bit that comes from rye. So James E. Pepper is my favorite, like, mid-level rye.
Love it.
Very
Love
spicy.
It.
Very spicy.
I love the bottle it comes into, that little decanter style. I love that. Super cool. It looks nice. Sorry, I get carried away. I heard whiskey and I get carried away. So that, man, so that's the stuff I'm talking about. That's some wild stories right there too. Is, like, you now in your job, in your field, you spend time learning how to read people.
Yes. It's not in the sense where you talk about micro expressions or the guy's, rubbing his nose and he's lying.
Looks nervous.
It's reading people just from experience, but it's more keeping track of language. So that's why when we do an interview or an interrogation, we've got two people. One is so we can have people corroborating to testify, but I'm doing the interrogation. I'm the one running it. And then my partner is the one taking notes, kind of keeping track of where things go, but also watching the language. So if I ask you, hey, Tony, where were you Tuesday morning when your neighbor went missing? And you say to me, well, usually on Tuesdays, I go to the gym. And, well, that's not telling me where you were. That's trying to tell a story that's acceptable. But humans don't, unless you're a sociopath, humans want to tell the truth. And so they try to find a way to fit the truth fit a lie into what is still true. So you don't want to tell me that you actually stayed home and were spying on your neighbor until he left. You're telling me what you usually do, which is true, but it's not what I asked. And so it's just watching how people respond. Is my simple question met with a long and rambling answer? Okay, now we're going to come back to that. Are you prevaricating? Are you hesitating? Are you unable to repeat the same thing? So there's a lot of tools there. But mainly what we just do is build rapport and build trust in someone as much as we can when we're going in for that interrogation.
Absolutely. I see how some of those work too. And then I like how you like, you'll just go back to things, so you kind of just continue the conversation, stuff like that. Okay. Now, for like, now I'll use an example. Like, obviously when I started podcasting, it was a little rough. I had to get, we talked about earlier, like, technical issues, stuff like that. So for interrogation, when did it become, like second nature to you, or is it still kind of just still adapting and evolving?
No, it definitely took some time. Like I had to learn. I spent 12 years in ministry, so that gave me an advantage I think, in the interrogations because I'm accustomed to talking to people, to drawing them out, listening when I'm supposed to listen, making them feel comfortable. So part of that is me, part of that's what I got to practice. So I took that. That was going to be my style. Even though I can lie to a subject, I never did it just because it didn't seem to have value. I'd see guys saying, "Hey, we had our satellites watching you this whole time." And I think, yeah. So what if you get called
Yeah.
on that lie? Here's a ruse and it doesn't work. Now you're not credible. But I would create this space where people feel comfortable. So I'm, you could be a sex offender and you're expecting me to tell you how disgusting you are. But if I come to you without judgment and I'm finding something that we have in common, the criminals know that judgment in the future, the court case, that's there. But oddly, what's most pertinent and important is right now. And so if I can be non-judgmental and leave that judgment for, you know, 6 months from now,
Elsewhere. Yeah.
when the jury is going to do that, that's disarming and things come to a place where it seems like a normal conversation. And, I remember trying to have these techniques and I'd learned from senior guys too, but I had an interrogation of a gang member. I remember, and so we had an informant buying dope off of him who had a video camera as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start early. And so I blew up a picture of his face from from the video footage, get him started agreeing with things, saying yes, start that process. So I slide the picture over to him and I say, "Can you identify the man in this picture?" And he goes, "Nope." And I'm like, "Well, it's you." And he says, "No, it ain't." And I said, "Okay, over your shoulder, you can see the address of the house. This was done in front of your house." I pull out his driver's license. I go, "That's the same address on your driver's license." "No, it ain't." And I go, "Hey,
Jeez.
in the picture on this video, that man is wearing a very unique necklace that says Doe. You're wearing that same necklace right now." He says, "No, I ain't." And
Oh
I
boy.
couldn't get anywhere. But that was brilliant by him. So he wasn't going to fall for any tricks. He'd been through the process before. He knew he was going to go to prison. It's in his best interest not to give me anything else. And we had enough to get him charged
Yeah.
anyway. But that is compared to like folks who come in and they've never been arrested or not by the feds. This is the worst day of their life. Like I might have to calm them down even. And those times is a great advantage because I've done this 100 times, thousands. I know what the process is. And so here I am reaching out a hand. I'm your helper. I'm going to help you through this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you through this really difficult time that I started in the first place. And and people respond to that. Let me help you understand what you're facing. And while we're doing that, I'm going to also ask you some questions back and forth. If you don't want to answer anything, don't. I just ask that you don't lie to me. But the problem is, like, once people start answering those questions to try to figure out what they're facing, it seems rude to stop. I mean, as dumb
Absolutely.
as that sounds, like, I don't want to be rude. So they'll keep, the back and forth. And eventually they're going to tell me things they shouldn't be telling me.
See, I like that. I like how you create like, sort of that friendship. It's kind of why I do this show too. Cause I mean, it's a weird example, but Real conversation is what I like. I feel like that's, as humans, we all want to have real conversations, connections with people. We maybe we have something we want to get out, or somebody else does, and I love that when you find, when you can have that back and forth with somebody, that real conversation. Like right now, I'm learning about your job, which is fascinating, and kind of I'm learning how your perspective on things are as well. You know how you saw what you did, and you know what they did, and I like that. And on that, did it start become a pattern when you started talking people kind of like, do you know who this person is already? Like you said, you're trying to find the truth, because I think some people forget too. Maybe I don't know the crime world like that, but I'm just going off my head. You know, maybe some people, when it comes to like certain things, they have to do this or they were forced to do it. I mean, right is
Hmm.
right, wrong is wrong, but maybe they're trying to ask you for help in a way. You know, do you start to see patterns?
Well, what I saw was a broader understanding of people. So I never had a hard black and white line, but that gray line broadened where it made sense why a gang member in Chicago is making those choices. Again, shouldn't have shot somebody, but I get why you joined the gang. You have limited options. You want to belong to something. People
Yeah,
want that. Maybe you join the gang because you need protection as well, because it's violent out there. You're selling drugs because
money.
that's it's you need money. It's there. It's available. Like there's a lot that goes into it that makes more sense. And so it just, I'm still going to charge you, but I now I can talk to you better, and it helps to remove that judgment. It helps me to just speak to this person not as a gang member, but as whomever he is, not as an object. This is somebody who just was coerced or found himself sliding into these poor choices, these criminal choices. And we'd see that, with the prostitutes that we worked with and the crimes against children. I mean, there were many times we could charge someone, but because they could give us valuable information,
Yeah,
like,
use them.
look, there's not, she's going to go back and do this again. Let's try to help her out. let's let's take this valuable moment and instead try to go after a younger girl that we can get out of this system.
And back to my point earlier about thanking what you do, because I'm going to speak, I'm not political, but I'm going to speak a little bit on some of that. Like, obviously, you lived in Chicago. We have a lot of that, um, kind of like, we have the slums and stuff like that, the areas that you don't make it out of just because of your family patterns and stuff like that. And yeah, maybe you don't have your parents around, so you need that camaraderie, friends, and they show you the life and they bring you in, and that's all you know. And that becomes a dangerous person when you're messing with their livelihood, and they don't have the right perspective on life. And it can be hard to talk to some people like that just they don't think they did anything wrong. And it takes people like you to kind of show them, kind of, hey man, this is not right. This is what's going on. And once again, I appreciate you. And was there ever a case where someone like you may, I know earlier you said you keep the feelings out of it, but maybe you've had opened a new light for somebody?
Well, there our involvement with folks often ended pretty soon after the arrest. So
Mhm.
it wasn't frequent that we could hear
Follow
the end of the
through.
story or hear more about it. But I'll tell you two real quick. One was simply we had a guy arrested for possession with intent to distribute cocaine. And the guy goes, "Look, I ain't going to fight you on that because of the weight I bought, but I didn't distribute." He goes, I was a user.
Oh shit.
And, like, we're going, like, how are you using that much cocaine? And, he just pushed his nose. He had no septum. He goes,
Oh,
"You guys saved my life today. Arresting me is the best thing. I'd be dead soon if I didn't just get clean in prison." So,
wow.
I mean, that's a little thing. And we had one case where a trio of pastors were involved in a sex trafficking ring for underage girls,
Jeez.
and that's something in itself. But I was talking to our victim coordinator maybe a couple years ago, and this was a long time back, just recounting that story because it stood out so much.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, this girl was trafficked and then later kidnapped after the subject's arrest to try to be coerced into recanting. And I was, telling her we're just talking about that story. And she goes, "Oh, let me show you some pictures." So that at the time, 15-year-old girl, now maybe 8 years later, she goes, "Look, this is her baby boy. She's got a job with the government now. And she has even come back on multiple occasions to speak to functions to say this is how the FBI saved my life." So that was one of the rare times someone got to fill me in on the rest of the story. We did all this. We did what was right by charging these guys, and then normally we just move on. And so I did until finding out years later, like she was able to overcome to a great degree all those effects.
See, and that just goes back to my point, Eric. People like you, man, you're one in a million, and that it takes a special type of person. I'm sure you've heard this before to do what you do, man, and I just love. It's getting me excited. I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, obviously you got the suspense and all there with the crazy things you've been through, but it's just you and people like you did that. They're taking that step above and beyond, and that that says a million things about you. Now I got to ask too, what is, you've told me you've shared some cases with me. What is something like that, a case maybe you were like, most happy to be a proud of, or you love talking about a lot?
Oh, I worked two cases that were honored with the Attorney General's Award, which is, I don't know how they rank them, but it's pretty high honor. One was a very significant case. I'll tell you about this one since you're in the Chicago area. John Burge was a Chicago police commander in the 70s and 80s, and he and his team regularly tortured subjects in order to gain confessions. And because he did a good job and was very aggressive, Chicago PD didn't do anything about him for whatever reason. FBI or the Department of Justice let that go as well, despite many, many allegations. And so by the time that I moved to the Public Corruption and Civil Rights Squad in Chicago, my buddy Jake had this case going. And this was like Elliot Ness getting Al Capone because
Nice.
we were working a case 20, 25 years after these events happened. And so the reason we were able to even initiate that case is because one of the victims, and they were almost exclusively black males, sued Burge in federal court civilly. And
Wow.
John Burge said on the stand, "I know nothing of any tortures in Area 2 Chicago PD during my time." So if we're able to show that he must
You know
have
about it.
perjury and obstruction of justice. So I'm used to working dope cases where we're on phone taps, where we're doing search warrants, we're subpoenaing phone records. This is a 25-year-old case. Phone records ain't there,
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
even if
old.
they were, like, what are you gonna do with that? So that was like all we were doing. We're interviewing these victims, and keep in mind these victims they're almost all criminals too.
Yeah.
So one man we're talking to, he'd served his time. He tells the story of how he was handcuffed behind his back. Burge and his team take him to an underpass, and one guy stands on the bumper in the vehicle and starts pulling up on his handcuffs until he thought his arms would rip out. And he says, "Because of that, I gave a confession. I missed my mom's funeral while I was in prison."
Oh,
And I thought, well, right. And I'm not trying to catch him on this, but I'm curious, like, did they make you confess to something you didn't do? And he said, "No, but I never would have confessed." I'm like, okay. Like,
well,
so I'm not going to feel bad that you spent time in prison. Let's
yeah, never
focus
mind.
on, yeah, let's focus on the torture. Like, that can't
That's
happen.
the part.
You going to prison, that's justice.
Some you did.
Tortured to get the information, That's not justice. So we worked up the case on him. It took, I mean, it was amazing job by Jake, myself, and the rest of the team, and ended up. I think he got 4.5 years in prison for that. But what was crazy is when we arrested him, he was 61 years old. So, dude's like a few years older than I am now, but he was, all this abuse that he had, he just like he could hardly walk and he was so
Man,
frail, just pathetic. But that brought some justice to the situation for the people of Chicago way after the fact, well past when it should have, but at least we got to do something significant there.
that's pretty cool. And I like to. I mean, obviously, there's corruption everywhere, and I'm not. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm not. I love the police, but there's some bad eggs there too as well. And I like that you guys check that. You know what I mean? It doesn't just because they're police or officials or politicians, whatever it is, that they can't be checked as well.
Yeah.
So it goes everywhere. Corruption's everywhere, unfortunately. But so what are some? I'm trying to think here. What are some cases that surprised you? Maybe like you were talking earlier with the sex trafficking. What is something that maybe took you out of like you didn't know that was going on or wouldn't have known unless you were in the FBI?
Well, I never thought of the sex trafficking stuff prior. I worked crimes against children for a couple of years in Toledo, Ohio, out of the Cleveland division. And I had been exposed to it because that's a fairly small office. So,
Yeah,
when they're having a sting or a takedown, everybody's jumping in to help. So I'd been there on prostitution stings and, been involved in cases. But now that I was leading the task force, I'm seeing much more intimately. This is what it's like. Um, I mean, it's just my friend Laura worked with me on that task force, and like, I'll hit her up. This is so many years later of, hey, remember this time, because it's just crazy. Like, if you go to 28-year-old Eric who's pastoring and saying, hey, in the future you're going to be doing this, I, I'd be surprised at least. So we had one case where, I mean, these girls were just recalcitrant. They didn't want to give things up. They didn't trust us. And I get it. And again, this was part of understanding them.
yeah,
There'd never been an adult in their life that had any value. So
good
why
interest
listen?
in them.
Why listen to us? But we're driving this girl around, 15-year-old girl who's been prostituting, trying to build rapport and get her to like, hey, can you show us some of these places where you tricked? We want to find these guys in support of sex trafficking. And she's intractable. She's not moving. And while we're doing that, she goes, just out of the blue, she goes, I need a cigarette. And so, we pull into a parking lot and I go, I don't have cigarettes, but I got cigars if you want to smoke a cigar. And so, here's my partner looking at me like, Eric, you're giving a 15-year-old girl a cigar. I'm like, hey, Laura,
If it helps.
she's having sex with men. Like, this is not the worst thing in her life. And so, here's me sitting in a parking lot smoking cigars with a 15-year-old prostitute, winning her over to see that, okay,
You're not bad.
yeah, this guy's not bad. So, we're going to ultimately get so much. And this is way past any type of child abuse statute. So I am in the clear. That was
Yeah.
long ago. Nobody can charge me.
No, I get they got to build that rapport. That absolutely. Once again, just random. I heard a word I like: cigars. What's your favorite cigar, brother?
Anything by AJ Fernandez.
Okay,
I have smoked cigars for a while, so they got to be like tar. So I smoke the diesels from AJ Fernandez. Those are deep. Those are
I
deep. I like
just
those.
had that yesterday, and it's now easily one of my favorite cigars.
So
Absolutely.
which model did you have? Do you
It
recall?
was a Connecticut. It was a
Okay.
little milder.
Okay.
It was a longer one. It's got like I think they just not recently came with the little black band on the bottom. I can't remember
Okay.
which one exactly it was, but yeah, it was the Connecticut. It's very good, man. It's very yeah, you could taste a lot in there. I'm a big fan of the Maduro wraps. Pretty
Yep.
much anything from Fuentes or Olivia. I love
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. I want mine to remind me a couple hours later, hey, you smoked me, remember? And I go, yep, I can tell.
Absolutely. That's you know what that's the people like somebody asked that the other day. That's what a good cigar is for me. It's the same thing with whiskey. I want to remember it. Absolutely. That's they kind of go hand in hand too. If you ever do them together, I love that.
I have done cigars and whiskey together. Yes.
Absolutely. So just a little bit back on you, Eric. Um, how so have you done like do you do any motivational speaking or any seminars? Because man, you are a very inspirational person. I don't know if you know that.
I tell people that all the time, that I'm very inspirational and good looking. Uh, your words, not mine. No, the actually the impetus for me writing a book. My wife, for 14 years, she and her company, Weaving Influence, have been marketing authors. So I'm getting near retirement, and I say, what should I do next? And my wife says, oh, you should be a keynote speaker. And I say, sure, but like, why would somebody hire me? Like, just out of the blue, here you go, I'm going to hire you. And she says, well, what we do is we have people write books. And so that's going to be the springboard. So that's how I sat down and thought, let me put some of these stories down. Well, I would say to paper, but it's digital. Let me get these stories down, but
Yeah.
also just tell the tale of how this Baptist pastor, who was nothing special, got into the FBI and was able to do some remarkable things with these great cases.
I mean, just your work history alone could be the title. I mean, people hearing that, I mean, that's what immediately intrigued me. And then talking to you, Eric, too. You're very likable. It's easy to talk to you, and I think you have a very good. I personally like your perspective on life and how you handle things. I mean, I'd definitely go to a seminar to listen to you, and I know a lot of people who would, and a lot of people listening would too. So, if you ever get that up going, give me a contact or a link, or if you finish your book, I think that's definitely I'm not telling you what to do, but I think that's something you
Yeah, yeah.
definitely should do in the future. I would love to see it. I would go to a seminar if you have one.
Well, so this is timely. I saw on my computer the FBI pre-publication email popped up while we're talking. So my book has been with them to clear.
Okay.
They've got to make sure, hey, don't say this, or you're fine in that. So been waiting on them since February to give me the okay to move on to next steps too.
And then obviously like going into I don't know if that's kind of what you were just talking about. What is the statute on what you can talk about, or kind of can you talk about certain things?
Well, in my book, I only talk about adjudicated cases. And so if this is the case I took to trial, or the guy pleaded guilty, or this is one I was a part of, a buddy had the case, but here's what I did in there. There's things that we did that weren't adjudicated. And so, I don't put the guy's name in there. And the rest of it is just that general story of, here's my work with this informant and what we did. And obviously, I'm not putting any identifying information about
Yeah.
informants. So it's my experience working these cases where I'm not sharing trade craft, nothing beyond what people don't know, and not sharing classified information. Those are the general guidelines.
Yeah, obviously. Too, is there some, obviously a lot of this stuff is political too. So is there some things you have to stay away from?
Just what I mentioned, where I'm not, I mention colleagues by first name, which I think is unidentifying enough. Where if you say Matt,
There's
that's
a lot of mats. Yeah.
there's a lot of Matts in the world. I mean, even if I said, dude, I mean, you think we had like 5 or 6 Matts just in my office over a period of years, so that doesn't even identify which one. So, yeah, I, 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 I am pretty certain that as I wrote the book, there should be very little, if anything, that the FBI has problems with, because it's mainly my story doing FBI
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah.
I like that too. That's kind of why I was asking too, because I hope that you could be free to be yourself. Because man, you're a pretty cool guy, and they're your stories.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they're not. You went through them. You handle them the way you would. Just to kind of wrap things up here, Eric, what is something maybe people that want to get into the field of either a pastor or the FBI or something? What is the advice you would give the people that are traveling along the same road or stuck in what should I do?
So I think both are. I enjoyed both. I would highly recommend. I mean, the FBI I can speak more to because that's got boundaries of this
Yes,
is what it's probably going to look like. Pastoring could be, who knows where you are and what denomination. I would always recommend the FBI. I used to be on, LinkedIn under a false name just so I could troll bad guys and, look them up. And my wife goes, well, now you got to get a real one. So since I joined LinkedIn, I get maybe 10 kids have reached out to me who are in college or graduating soon wanting to know about the FBI, or I'll see that they have, they connect and they've got criminal justice major and like, hey, did you connect with me because I'm in the FBI? If so, fire away. I, I'll always promote the FBI because it's such a high level people and you get to do something of substance that's noble. It's not just
noble.
exciting, but you add to the community. So that's doubly noble of you know getting to earn a living and also add to the community. So anybody who gets to do that is living a blessed life. So I got to do that. I got to do that twice.
Yeah, I was gonna say you did that twice. That's what I think most of us, me myself, you want to live. I mean, me personally, I want to live, serving a bigger purpose, so, serving a higher purpose, and you've done that twice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything I do within the union and stuff like that, I feel I'm doing that now. But man, you've done that on two big levels, and that's to me that's an amazing story and a story worth telling. Um, what is maybe some you've talked about a little bit of what is something in the future that you're looking to do now? What do you want to do?
So the biggest is finishing up with the book. We're in talks with another publisher. I've got my wife's company to publish it. We're in talks with another more traditional publisher for that possibility to go out. So finishing that, and I got to tell you, Tony, writing the book was easier than having to go through and make changes and readjust.
It's a
So
lot.
there's a lot to that process, but uh, yeah, I'm already looking at what's next for another. I really enjoyed writing, so that outlet is good. And then getting to talk to folks like you to say, "Hey, man, check out my book. I think you'll like it."
Absolutely. I mean, you advertise very well for yourself anyway, just who you are as a person. I would hone in on that because you're pretty cool, dude. I don't know. I'm not gonna say good looking because
No,
my,
your
my
words, not
wife would
mine,
get
man.
mad.
It's your words, not mine.
But I would definitely, man, hone in on who you are because you're an extraordinary person, man. A very, very easy person to talk to. You've probably been one of the easiest interviews that I've ever done. It's just, you're a very likable person as well, and I think that's going to help you in your future endeavors. Just to wrap it up here, is there anything that you want to say, Eric, or anything you want to let people know, or maybe talk about real quick?
Yeah, if folks want to follow me, I mean, they can check me on LinkedIn. And honestly, if anybody wants to know what's it like to get into the FBI, hit me up on LinkedIn and connect that way. Or you can go to Instagram. I'm at _Eric_Robinson. Or if you want to follow me and how the book is going, you can go to my website, which, Tony, you're not ready for this. It's preacher to breacher.com.
I love that. I'm actually going to say that because I do want to follow. I do. You said preacher to reacher?
Breacher. I was
Oh,
the guy who
breacher.
busted down your door.
Preacher. I love this. That is man, that's a title right there.
Well, that was our working title before we came up with Irreverend. That was, I mean, because it was just one that we'd always say on the SWAT team and stuff as a joke. But, sitting down, trying to think of a one word title for the book that maybe stood out, it just struck me that Irreverend works good, that I was
Exactly.
irreverent, but some of the things that we got mixed up in and the dirt that we saw was definitely unholy. So
Yeah, that
irreverent
was
works well.
yeah, it's two types of the morality there too, that some of the stuff what you did before to what you saw. Um, I would definitely too, Eric, if you're interested, if you got time, when you start getting like the press out, the press releases, I would love to do another episode, kind of dive into how it was
Yeah.
writing the book for you, being a first time author and all, and maybe if it brought back memories for you, I would love to do that with you in the future.
Trauma. Yes. It brought back
Yeah,
trauma.
or some PTSD on some
Yeah.
things. Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot there because I mean that's the other thing too, man. Just to bring it back to you, brother. Some of the stuff you've had to deal with, some of the stuff you were involved in. I'm sure. I know for you it was easy to maybe separate the two, but for some people maybe a little harder. And that takes a tough, resilient person and passionate person to do that. And I thank
Yeah.
you for that again.
Yeah. And writing the book helps too. I mean, you're going through all this stuff and you're getting it out there. So that's my therapy. Also, therapy is my therapy.
Along with whiskey and cigars.
That's also my therapy. I have so much therapy.
Absolutely. Hey, you got to, man. You've deserved it. You've earned it. And you're at a point in life where it's time for you to enjoy it, to its fullest. Eric, I want to thank you again for being on. You are an extraordinary human being. And I appreciate you for being on the Garage Mind. And guys, thank you for listening. And if you want to get in contact with him or you're on the same journey, you guys know where to go. Thank you and see you next time.